Hi guys, welcome back to Match Fishing TV UK. I'm Dan. Pleasure having your company once again. Today's video wanted to go back to basics. So a few videos ago I did a piece about getting match fishing tackle at the best possible price. So if you're getting into match fishing and you wanted to cover all bases but you didn't have loads of money to go out and spend, how you could potentially go and get some rods and reels and stuff that would make you competitive and enable you to get out there and start doing some matches. But before you even get to that stage, you've got to consider how you're going to get into matches. Are you ready to get into matches? So I've got some quick tips here for those of you that are looking at making the transition from maybe pleasure angling, but thinking about entering those matches and what you need to do. Right, so let's start at the very beginning then. Join a club. Join a club. You may already be a member of a club, that's fine. But if you're not, join one, because the place you want to start match fishing is club level matches. If you're a member of a club, you can contact the organising committee for the matches. They'll give you a nice big list of the matches that are coming up, the venues that they're going to be on. And from there, you can start asking questions. You can start looking up on social media these days, Facebook, etc., match results, the types of baits and tactics that have been used, all those sorts of things. But join a club. The other thing is a club, average membership is maybe, what, £150 a year, let's say, just over a tenner a month. That means you've got access to all of those waters, maybe 7, 8, 9 plus waters for the whole year. So you can get down to those venues, you can have a look, you can talk to people. It really helps. But first things first, join a club. Okay, so you've got your membership sorted, you've got your nice big list of matches sorted, you've got your eye on a couple. What do you do next? Practice. Practice, practice, practice. Now, there's probably not an angler in the land who won't be able to tell you what their strong point is with their angling. You've got guys who are really strong on the feeder, guys who are really strong on the pole. You will need to be a master of all arts if you're going to fish matches. One of the things I personally really love about match fishing is that it's like the decathlon of fishing. You have to be able to turn up to a venue and be adaptable enough to fish maybe 4, 5, 6 different things on the same day. So have a look through social media, have a look through the match results, have a wander around the lakes that your matches are going to be taking place on and ask questions, and then figure out what you need to become more skilled at. Now, you may not be the most confident with the pole. My advice would be go to a venue of an upcoming match. If it's going to be a pole match, if pole's going to feature very heavily, go down there, leave the rods in the garage, just take your pole, spend a session on the pole, figure things out, get more comfortable with what you're doing, play around with some baits. It really helps. I did one last winter on a small venue near me. I'd only fished it a couple of times before. And the best thing I did was I spent a couple of days there a few weeks before a match. And I just tried out different tactics, different things that worked. I was quite surprised at some of the baits that worked. And when I got into the match, I actually, did very well in that particular match because I was able to have plan A, plan B, plan C. So get out there, practice. It'll make you feel a lot better when you actually do get into the match. So my next tip is learn your bait. So there's so many baits out there, so many confusing choices of bait. I mean, if you just type in pellets, for example, into Google, you'll get about 1 million different options of pellets you can use. All are good, but do you necessarily need all of them at your particular match? You could go armed with 20 different types of pellets. Learn your baits, learn the baits that do well on your local venues. Start off there. Don't try and reinvent the wheel. Start off with what works at these venues. And then leading on from the previous point, if you're practicing, that's where you can start introducing your own little things, different flavours of pellets or wafters or sinkers or, different maggots, pinkies, squats, casters, whatever. But start off with what works. And then that's at the very least going to get you into matches and catching from the start. So the next tip is take what you might need. And by that I mean everything. You'll notice that most match anglers, when they're approaching their peg, have a few smirks from pleasure anglers, etc., because it does look like they're taking a whole 2 weeks worth of gear with them for a 6-hour match. However, the last thing you want on a match is to look around you, look at what's happening with the other anglers next to you, and realise that you don't have the equipment that you need to be able to compete with them. Now, we see this quite a lot with people approaching matches that are feeder matches, to be honest, feeder dominated matches. I fish a few venues where all of the action is 40 metres plus, or so you would think. And then a guy pulls out a pole, starts catching at 11 metres, and everybody's looking and nobody else has got the pole. And that's where you think, I wish I put the pole in the bag. So the simple message is, if you might need it, take it. Even if that means you're going quite heavy. You know, look back at the previous video I did on match fishing tackle. You will need something good to transport your kit from car to peg. Okay, and that's why it's better to have it sat there and not used rather than have it not sat there and needed, because you will cry your money that you've paid for your pools. You know, you're handing it over to somebody else because you haven't prepared correctly. So take what you might need. Next tip is, you know, when you approach your peg, learn how to plumb up properly. It can make such a massive difference. You get to a peg that you don't know that well, or even a peg that you do know quite well, to be honest, you should still plumb it up. You should still be testing the depths out there, because a lot of the lakes that we fish as anglers, we don't have the benefits of having a lovely big, you know, lily bed in the middle of the peg, which is an obvious feature to target, or, you know, an island with margins. Sometimes you get pegs that are just featureless. You know, you are casting into open water, but that's only what you can see. You can't see under the water, so your eyes under the water are going to be where you plumb up, where you figure out the depths change. Is there a gravel bar? Is there a little bowl somewhere in your peg that you can target? You know, what is out there? How quickly does the peg deepen up? You know, is there an ice shelf somewhere? You know, all these little things. You'll get quite a lot of the information that you need from, you know, accommodating anglers sometimes, but, you know, get into the habit of plumbing up those pegs and figuring it out. Some of the venues, again, that I've fished over the last few years, you know, guys fish them twice a week and they know every single inch of those pegs that they're fishing. But you know what? They still, out of good habits, plumb them up before they start, just in case something's been forgotten, just in case, you know, something has changed under the water, because things do change, you know, depths do change, water levels drop, you know, it's just a good habit to get into. So make sure that you plumb up. The next tip is, it's quite a basic one really, but set up your box correctly. And by that I don't mean you need all the accessories in the world on your box when you start match fishing, you know, but you have to be comfortable. I see so many anglers, you know, set up on boxes that have got a ridiculous tilt on them, and all that's going to do is put stress and strain on your back for 6 hours, especially if you're pole fishing, something like that. You know, just take a few minutes to make sure that your box is level. If you don't have the little spirit levels on your box, or if you're using a chair, you know, it doesn't matter when you start match fishing. The very simplest way of making sure that your stuff is level is just to get a bait box, a little bit of water in it, and use that as a sort of spirit level. You'll see. The great Tommy Pickering has got a few videos out there about this where he does exactly that. Even though he's got the spirit levels on some of his boxes, he still does that. He gets his eyes on a bait tub with a bit of water in the top of it, because he knows that from all his years of match fishing, if your box is incorrectly set up and you keep doing it, you're going to knacker your back out, and you're no good trying to fish 6 hour match if your back's knackered. You're not going to be able to do it. So take care of your back, set your box up correctly. The school of thought that I agree with is that your box should slightly tilt forward so that the pressure is not on your lower back. It's actually just sitting on your knees. That way, you know, you're comfortable, you're set for 6 hours, okay? Also, during a match, if you feel that, you know, things have slipped a little bit and you're getting uncomfortable, take a minute and correct it, because if you've got 3 or 4 hours left, you don't want to be doing that. You want to be focused on what you're doing in the match, what you need to do to, you know, stay competitive in that match, rather than thinking, my back hurts, this isn't much fun. Okay, my last tip here is something that you see up and down the country on a daily basis with matches, and it is drawing yourself out of the match. And by that I mean, once you get a better idea of a venue and you look up the results and you speak to other anglers, you will hear certain pegs are potential match winners and certain pegs are not. Now, that is true. In most cases, it is true. However, the last thing you want to do is draw yourself out of a match. So draw a peg out and think, I've got no chance. I'm a great believer in being positive. If you approach that peg and think, I've got no chance here, not worth me being here, then it really isn't worth you being there. If you approach that peg with some positivity and you think, right, I'm going to fish this as hard as I can, I'm going to use all the methods I think might work today, I'm going to plumb up my swim correctly, you know, I've got a plan, then the likelihood is, if something is going to happen, it's going to happen for you in that peg. Now, a great example of this, something that happened just this week, was the Fishomania Final 2020. It was put back, obviously, from earlier on in the year. Retained by Andy Bennett, first guy to retain it, Bagger Bennett. And he drew a peg which was not fancied. The last few years have been won from, you know, a couple of pegs, and he was a few pegs down from that, and it wasn't fancied. And you know what? Conditions changed, water temperature changed. He went in with a positive mindset and tried a few different things, and he made it work for him. And he won the match from a peg, which, you know, arguably wasn't considered to have a chance of winning the match. And that's because he turned up and thought that he could win the match. You know, and that's a top class angler right there. You know, if you turn up and think this is a done deal, you know, then it will be, in all likelihood. The hot pegs, the flying pegs, may have a slightly better chance of winning the match just because of, you know, where the fish shoal up and the temperatures, etc. But things change. Things change very quickly under the water, and we can't always see. So put your most positive cap on when you get to your peg. And you shouldn't finish a match without thinking, I've done my absolute best there to make something happen. And you know what? Not all the time will it happen, but sometimes you'll just surprise yourself. So guys, there's a few of my initial tips on getting into matches. If you are somebody who is getting into your first match, you've got it booked in maybe for this week or the coming weeks, good luck to you. You know, first things first, enjoy it. It's a great way to spend your time at the end of the day, and I love match fishing, so I hope that you get as much out of it as I do. Keep watching Match Fishing TV UK. We've got more videos coming out on a regular basis. Until then, see you next time.